My ex Mill insults me over my job and my body. This is a long rant. So sorry in advance for how long this is. I'm pissed and just need to vent. My ex-husband, Bill, and I chose to end our marriage amicably. There was no cheating or anything like that. There was just too much stress due to some issues that happened. Feel free to read my previous posts on my profile for that debacle. And we both decided that it was for the best. I seem to be a magnet for insane people. My mother, ex-friend, her mother, incels. My life is fucked up sometimes. Both of us were feeling the strain and our mental health was taking hits all the time. We argued a lot, even over the pettiest of reasons. Our eldest son, Brandon, was being affected by it. We had stopped going to couples therapy and weren't even sleeping together as much as we used to. I would often sleep in bed and he would sleep on the couch in his office. Bill knew what he was getting into, but he decided after our youngest was born that he couldn't deal with it like he thought. After talking about it and trying to come up with solutions, we chose to end our marriage. It hurt and broke our eldest son's heart, but we agreed to stay friends, and so far it has been working out fine. He's still in our lives, has a room for our kids at his place, and takes our eldest to school every morning and visits a couple of days out of the week. He and I have lunch twice a week to talk about the kids and keep each other updated. We're a divorce court judge's wet dream. It was the best decision we made. At least I thought so. I moved me and the boys into a 2-bedroom apartment, and I am working full-time as a bartender at a gentleman's club. I love my job. I've only been there a few weeks and I am making good money, close to $1,000 a week just in wages and tips. So with alimony and child support, we're sitting pretty. I am trying to lose weight so I can become a dancer at the club. I'm doing the keto diet and going to the gym regularly. I'm shedding the pounds I want to lose and I am already down a dress size. I have always struggled with my weight. I was never overweight but not exactly skinny. I am white but I have what some call a ghetto booty. The women in my family always had big hips and big boobs and big thighs. I am also using a waist trainer to help with my figure and posture. I do my hair and makeup and go to work looking and feeling like a movie star. I have long dark hair and green eyes. I started getting spray tans when we moved to this city and I have fallen in love with it. I feel good about myself for the first time in years and I am an ever-evolving work in progress. I am what you would consider to be a mutt, as I have a lot of different cultures in my bloodline. Mostly German. I have to brag here that even Bill turns his head whenever I walk into the room and tells me he regrets not having me in bed whenever he wants. I admit it, I get a little satisfaction from that. I used to dress super frumpy and didn't bother much beyond a shower and brushing my teeth. I also want to add that I never attended college. Bill is tall with a deep olive complexion with jet black hair he keeps slicked back, a full beard he keeps short, and large golden brown eyes. He dresses well. He has an ass that makes me drool. He has always been in good shape, and since our move here, he has gone to the gym to stay fit. He is full-blooded Greek, as his parents immigrated to the US right after they got married. His father found success in real estate while his mother maintained the family home. They lived in wealthy comfort in a massive house in Connecticut until they moved to my old state. Their home in my old state is just as massive and considered a mansion. It's on an old plantation that they turned into a beautiful estate. Bill went to college and got his bachelor's and quickly got an internship at his current career, which he makes 6 figures at. Maybe I'm biased, but he is the perfect man, at least on the surface. Needless to say, I was nowhere in my ex-husband's league, but his family welcomed me with open arms. They were the family I always dreamed of having. The opposite of my family in every way. I loved them so much and called my in-laws mom and dad. We always got along and talked almost daily. Mill often sent me recipes of Greek dishes for me to learn how to cook for Bill because he loved it. We often went to a little Greek bistro as a family, and I make it a point to have our eldest try stuff from Bill's country. You can imagine my surprise when my Mill called me to chastise me about the divorce. She said that if I had been a better wife and lover, Bill would have stayed with me. She said that divorcing him twice was just too great a sin to forgive, and I needed to find God and pray for forgiveness for my wicked ways. I reminded her that Bill cheated on me to cause the first divorce and broke things off with me for the second one. I don't know where this was coming from, but she needs to have this talk with her son. She blew up at me saying my new job is tempting sin and that it was the devil's playground and my body would be soiled for her son and he wouldn't want to be with a woman like me. I reminded her that Bill and I divorced and she said I chased him away. She said every picture she received from us since I began bettering myself weren't worth going into her albums because I looked like a whore in them. I got upset and told her it wasn't my looks that were the problem. It was her son's decision, and it was all of the stress from the situation with Karen and my mother that caused it. She said Bill told her that was just one reason and said I wasn't the beautiful, demure woman he married anymore and didn't want to be with a whore. A effing war. I started to cry. In disbelief Mill would be so mean to me after she had been so kind to me all of these years. It blindsided me. The club I work at is not a typical strip club. It is a gentleman's club and caters to the higher elite of my city's society. Our prices are not cheap. The dancers are only allowed to show their breasts during private dances. They have to keep their lingerie on while working the poles. I know that isn't standard, but a lot of the dancers prefer it that way. Private parts have to be covered at all times regardless. There is no touching allowed, and a distance of 6 feet is heavily enforced by our bouncers for private dances due to COVID. Lap dances are no longer allowed due to a SA that happened long before I started working there. I know the story and I can share it another time. The stage is protected by a wide barrier that maintains a comfortable 6 feet distance between the dancers and the spectators. My boss is all about safety and doesn't take shit from anyone, even the customers that think their money is their get-out-jail-free card to treat the dancers and bartenders as they please. He has thrown out several people since I started working there. One man was demanding I show him my tits and to pour liquor on them so he could lick it off. My boss hurled his drunk ass out of the club like a sack of potatoes. Go boss man. He invested millions into the club. He is a good man that provides for his family. His wife is one of our dancers and she is a certified 10, even after having 3 kids. She and I have become good friends and she is giving me tips on how to get in better shape. I adore her. I guess I can understand why Mill would have reservations about my job, but it was no excuse for her to treat me that way. I hung up on her and called Bill and asked him to come over. As soon as he walked in, I confronted him about what his mother said. He assured me that it wasn't true and that he didn't know why Mill said those things. I asked him if he was bitter because of my job and that I had been bettering myself. He said no and that he was happy for me. He called his mother and put her on speakerphone and asked her why she was so cruel to me. Mill got upset. Feeling ganged up on, admitted it was a lie but was only looking out for Bill. Bill sighed and said it wasn't appropriate to speak to me like that and said that he was the one who wanted the divorce, not me. He reminded her of all of the hell I had gone through, to which she said that I brought that into their lives. I snapped and reminded her that she brought Karen into my life who put me and my family through hell for the last effing year. She began crying. Bill looked guilty, like he wanted to apologize for making his mother cry, but he said she should apologize to me for being unkind and holding my past against me. She went silent then hung up. I went to work that night and had a miserable shift. I have horrible butterfingers when I am overly stressed or upset and I broke several bottles of alcohol that night. My boss gave me crap about it and I felt so awful inside that I barely managed to hold it together. He called me to his office after my shift and asked what was up. I explained the situation to him and he apologized. I did tell them about my past so he and his wife understand why I get like I do sometimes. Certain things trigger me, I can't help it. He said it was okay and not to worry about it. He gave me the following night off and said to take a day for myself to calm down. I cried myself to sleep when I got home. Bill came over the next day with flowers and took me to lunch. He said he spoke to Phil. Phil told him that the divorce had been hard for Mill too and she couldn't stand thinking that her son could be the cause of both divorces and was in complete denial about it. So she pointed the blame at me, using my job as her justification to be so nasty. No way her wonderful son that she raised so well could have strayed so far. Phil did express his disappointment in Bill for taking the easy way out and divorcing me, believing that any couple can overcome their problems with time and healing, but he wasn't going to push the issue. Mill did apologize eventually after talking with Bill. She said she was just frustrated and didn't want to admit or accept that he did anything wrong and assumed I was just trying to make him jealous of other men because of my job and my self-improvement, and she didn't mean anything she said. I told him I needed some time. She didn't apologize to me directly but through Bill, so I don't know if her apology was genuine or if it was to appease him. After thinking about it a while, I decided to forgive her, sort of, but things won't be as they were. Only Bill will now be in charge of sending photos and keeping her updated about the kids, and I asked him not to discuss me at all. Not even to say I'm doing fine. If she calls me, I won't be picking up. This is the first just no behavior out of her that I have experienced. She welcomed me with open arms into the family, embraced my eldest son and claims him as her grandchild, and was always kind to me, never once judging me for my past until now. I don't know what to think or why she decided to be like this. I know people sometimes deserve second chances, but I would rather not give them the option to prove me wrong. So I'll be going no contact with her for a while. He took me home after that. Bill came over to talk to me last night about Mill and I said I didn't want to discuss it anymore. I made my decision and that I would be sticking to it until I felt ready to talk to her. Bill thinks I'm overreacting and being unreasonable. He said I needed to be more understanding that she is a Catholic that believes divorce is a sin. He acknowledges that it is his fault for the divorce though. Both of them, but he added that I could have made more of an effort to be emotionally invested in our marriage. He then went on to say my job is a problem for her and maybe I should consider looking at something else to make her happy. I saw red. I got pissed and told him to pound sand. My job makes me happy and that is all that matters. I don't care if Mill has a problem with it. I don't care if he does either. It's my life. He chose to leave. Not me. I won't be told what to do by anyone. My job provides for me and my kids and keeps a roof over our heads. I reminded him that his alimony and child support, while appreciated, isn't needed and I can manage alone without his help, even with 2 effing kids. I won't apologize for my job. I also won't apologize for bettering myself and finally finding the self-confidence I didn't know I had. And I won't apologize for his effing mistakes. First the cheating, then deciding his wife's trauma was too much of a stressor on his fragile existence. I won't roll over for anyone ever again. I then said that I'm not his effing wife anymore, so he and his mother don't get a say in what I do. I then told him to get the fuck out. I won't let people walk all over me anymore. Not even Bill. I don't know if I am overreacting, but I don't think I am. This man came into my life and took me and my son into his family. He adopted my eldest as his own and rescued him when he was kidnapped by my psycho effing mother. We had a child together. I found out he was cheating on me for an entire year with some shameless bitch at his job, and I took him back and married him for the second time after forgiving him. Then his mother brings another psycho into my life and I am the one having to deal with it. I had my body picked apart and ridiculed. My privacy was violated. I was threatened and my marriage was tested, but he blames me for the breakdown on our marriage because I wasn't emotionally invested enough. I did the damn best I could. I worked hard, maintained the house and took care of our kids. I never asked for anything for myself and always put him and my kids before me. But I am to blame? Yeah. Fuck that. I don't owe anyone shit. Update 1. The truth comes out. Hey, Reddit fam. Just want to thank you all for the love and support you all continuously show me despite how brainless I can be when it comes to the toxic people in my life. I sat down and took the time to really think about everything. I'm realizing now that my marriage was based on my subconscious desire to have someone there to protect me rather than standing on my own 2 feet. I had grown up living in fear all of my life, and when Bill came into my life, I felt safe, but it wasn't the safety I had wanted. Being divorced and standing on my own and defending myself against ex-Mill and Bill has given me perspective, and I feel more free than I did before. I am able to live my life on my own terms and provide for my kids, and I couldn't be happier with how everything turned out. Sadly, it took a lot of heartbreak, pain and drama to get here, but I like to think that I am stronger because of it. My ex-in-laws are here in town and wanted to see me to discuss everything. I didn't want to, but Bill pleaded with me, so I went. We met up at the bistro and sat down, the 4 of us. Ex-Mill got right into the discussion without giving us a chance to order drinks. She apologized to me directly this time, stating that she didn't mean to hurt me but was frustrated about my job and insisted on me finding something else. She doesn't want to tell her friends or the family that her grandson's mother works at a strip club and says it is tempting sin again. I told her I'm not sleeping with any of the men that come into my job. I then said if it bothers her that much, to not say anything about me. I don't want her saying anything about me at all to strangers anyway. She started crying and praying right there at the table, and I was getting pretty annoyed. I began to realize that this wasn't new behavior. Whenever she would get upset and wanted to shift the blame or ignore what was being told to her, she would start crying and praying for the person who is upsetting her. I was close to losing my shit. She finally calmed down and wiped her tears, then said me and Bill should get back together and get remarried at the courthouse. It would absolve our sins in the eyes of God. She then commanded I quit my job, stop wearing makeup and the new wardrobe I had gotten for myself. She even suggested I cut my hair. Abso-fucking-lutely not, lady. It took me years to grow my hair to the length it is now. My brother had chopped off a big chunk of my hair on the side of my head. I had to cut my hair in a pixie style just to avoid looking terrible. I have been growing my hair out ever since. Aside from trims every so often. I refused to cut it. I said no and got up to leave, but Bill insisted I stay because he had something to say. Fam, when I tell you this man couldn't look any worse, he manages to surprise me. He tells us that he has been lying to all of us. He admits that he has been seeing someone else behind my back for the last 4 months. While I've been home taking care of the kids and maintaining the house, he has been sleeping with another woman on his so-called office days. He said he wasn't attracted to me anymore because I was letting myself go. He expressed frustration that I only care about my appearance now instead of when we were married. He then said that he didn't want to be a father to my kids anymore and wanted to be done with me permanently. He will continue to pay the alimony and child support but does not want to see me or the kids. Ex-Mill and ex-Phil were shocked into silence. I could only sit there and stare at this man. Ex-Mill begins crying while ex-Phil is trying to comfort her. In just a few short weeks, Bill went from being the wonderful, upstanding gentleman to a cowardly, sinful adulterer/child abandoner for her. I actually felt sorry for her. Ex-Phil then asks if he was still seeing the other woman. Bill says yes and that he didn't mean for it to go this far, but he didn't want to hurt anyone more than he's already done. I don't know why, but I was so angry, I could only laugh. This man lied to me. He divorced me under false pretenses and has been seeing some other woman since right after my youngest son was born. Now a lot of the weird things he had done during that time made sense. While my ex-in-laws were going nuts on him, I just sat there. The manager had to come out and tell us all to be quiet. Bill looked at me and begged me for my forgiveness and said he was sorry, but he just couldn't handle life attached to me anymore. Even if that meant giving up his rights to the kids. I ordered a cocktail from the manager, who was still standing there, looking confused. I was smiling the entire time. When the waitress brought the cocktail, she handed it directly to me. I said, "Thank you," then threw the cocktail in Bill's face. I stood up and walked out. Bill sent me a text that he'll be sending my kids' belongings to me and blocked me on everything. Ex-Mill sent me a text and said she would not be bothering me anymore. She was heartbroken over what her son has done and she and ex-Phil will be cutting him out of their lives as well. I didn't respond. I feel bad for her and ex-Phil, but my only thoughts are with my kids right now. My eldest will have to be spoken to and I don't know how to even go about having that conversation. I decided to keep him out of school tomorrow so I can take him to my therapy session, so we can do it there. I picked my kids up from the sitters, then took them home. Brandon knows something is up, but I am not ready to talk about it with him yet. My mind is all over the place. I am crushed to have to tell him he is losing another dad. I don't want to lie to him, but I don't want to break his heart. Bill is such a effing gasshole for this. This isn't fair to my kids at all. I hate him for this. I effing at him with everything in my soul. All for some other woman. I called my boss and told him I needed to take a couple of days off to figure things out and explain the situation. He understood and told me to take the time I needed. A friend of mine will have the kids at her place when I work. She has kids of her own, one of them being in my son's class. Yes, I am paying her. Just to clarify, no, I am not angry at Bill for cheating on me again. I always knew in the back of my mind that he would. I wanted to trust him, but he showed me that he hasn't changed. I'm actually fine with it. What I am not okay with is him abandoning the kids. He's not the man I loved. He's someone else entirely and put on an act for years. I don't know what to do about my ex-in-laws. It's not their fault. Bill lied to them too, and they were acting based on what he was telling them. I did text them that they could come over tomorrow to see the kids after therapy and we can talk. They said they would, so we'll see how that goes. I won't deprive them of the chance to be grandparents to my boys just because their son is an asshole. I will now be going for official child support and full custody of my kids to protect them. That is it, fam. I don't know if I'll have an update after this. I'll still post stories about my mother occasionally, but for now, I'm gonna have a tall glass of wine and watch the latest hot episode before going to sleep. Update 2. Ex-Mill wants to take my baby to Greece for a year. Happy ending. Uck. Just uck. Fam. Uck. I was not expecting to update as I hoped today would be a fresh start for me and my kids. Unfortunately, this day couldn't be over fast enough. My ex-Mill has truly lost her mind. She wants to take my baby with her and ex-Phil to effing Greece for a year without me. I took my kids to my therapy session today and we broke the news to my eldest son, Brandon. He was understandably upset, but he understood. I was honest to a point. I told him Bill had decided not to be a part of our lives anymore and that it would just be me, him and his baby brother from now on. It is the truth, but I left out the cheating part. Brandon knows about the first time Bill cheated on me and that hurt him pretty badly. I'll tell him the truth when he is older. We discussed my ex-in-laws as well and my therapist said that based on what she understands of the situation, seeing them might be counterproductive but ultimately left the choice up to me. Brandon decided he didn't want to see them and in truth, neither did I, but I did decide to meet with them with my youngest. I dropped Brandon off at my friend's house and went to meet with my ex-in-laws at the bistro as I wasn't comfortable with them knowing where I live. They fawned over the baby, who was all smiles and giggles. I ordered food and just sat quietly to eat while they spent the time with him. Ex-Mill cried that my son was the spitting image of his father and I shifted uncomfortably but forced a smile and nodded my head. Not once did they ask about Brandon. I told them that I didn't mind them being in my kids' lives but there would have to be boundaries set in place. I laid out my terms which were very reasonable. They can do Zoom calls and we can visit for Christmas, provided I have the money to make the trip. I will not be told how to dress or how to live my life by them or anyone else. My lifestyle and my job are my business and they will not interfere anymore. I also do not accept religion in my life and I do not want my children being indoctrinated. If at any point my children decide they want to accept religion, it is their decision and no one will make it for them. I will also not be told what to do with my kids as they are mine and I am their mother. That is it. My terms are non-negotiable. They did not like this and they both began to argue. I told them I won't accept anything other than them agreeing to my terms and if not, they will never see us again. I will initiate no contact permanently. Ex-Phil agreed but ex-Mill began to cry and pray. I told her to stop because the crap doesn't work on me anymore. I will not be manipulated into submitting to her will. I am not her dancing monkey to order around to dance at her command. She went stone silent and after some prodding from ex-Phil she nodded then looked at my son who had fallen asleep in her arms. She then smiled like she was up to something. She got to talking about how great it would be if they took my son to Greece with them on their trip. The family would love him and he would fit in perfectly there. No one would know he is half white. His hair is so dark, just like Bill's. He would love it there. My sisters will adore him. I went as still as a rock and the smile on ex-Mill's face told me all I needed to know. She looked at me and said, "We're going to Greece for a year to be with family there. My sisters haven't seen us for a long time and I want to introduce baby to them. You shouldn't mind. It is our home country after all. He should be introduced to our culture. We'll bring him back. A year isn't that long." She was talking about it like she was trying to sell me a vacation. It may be their home country but it isn't mine. My jaw hit the floor. The effing audacity. I'm paraphrasing here but I said, absolutely not. Not only is it inappropriate to even suggest taking my son away from me, his mother for a whole effing year overseas, it is severing the bond that I have with him. He won't know who I am in a year. I would be a complete stranger to him. You also want to take him away from his older brother who loves him to death. You are crazy if you think I would ever entertain such a crazy idea. Ex-Mill went total cat butt faced and glared at me. Ex-Phil sighed and looked at his wife. You can't expect her to agree to something like that. Would you agree to it if it were your son? Ex-Mill snapped and said she did lose her son. And I said, so your solution is to steal mine? She then went quiet for a while and looked like she had a moment of clarity. She then looked at my son again and I saw actual tears, which surprised me. She then said that she was so heartbroken over Bill that losing him was like losing a piece of herself and my son is all she has left of him. She apologized and promised she would honor my wishes. She said she loves us but has a hard time letting go. Bill has shattered her spirit and she thought my son could be how she heals from the heartbreak. I told her that she has every reason to be upset with Bill and that none of this is her fault, but she needs help because religion is not the fix for every problem. It's only giving her temporary relief as she keeps her head buried in the sand to avoid facing her problems. Sometimes you have to stop using it as a crutch and dealing with your issues head on. I told her I can't go back to living on someone else's terms. I am still in therapy dealing with the trauma of my past and it isn't fair to impose her will on me, even if she believes it is for my own good. She did ask if the trauma of my past is what led to me being a stripper. I told her I wasn't currently a stripper. I am a bartender but I will be switching to dancing once I am at a weight I feel comfortable with. Dancers make way more money than bartenders do. As her son has decided to fuck off and leave me with 2 kids to take care of alone, I'll do whatever it takes to provide for them. I then told her my past trauma is my own burden to bear and I will not let it ruin me as it has others. It is why I am in therapy. My therapist knows about my desire to become a dancer and has not discouraged me from pursuing it. I told her that any extra money I make is going into my kids' college funds, so they won't have to struggle as I did. She actually appreciated that and said she would back off, even if she doesn't agree with it. I told her that was fine and I understood her concerns. We then talked about Bill. They admitted that they likely won't cut him off permanently but they are apprehensive and decided they needed time and told him not to call them for a while, even though it breaks their hearts to do it. He wasn't happy but ultimately, he said he would honor their wishes. They lamented over where they went wrong with him. I told them it wasn't their fault. Bill is a grown-ass man who makes his own decisions. He decided to throw his life away and all he is now is that woman who will likely leave him if word gets out about what he's done. Considering my one friend is such a blabbermouth, I don't think it will take very long. We talked about Greece and ex-Mill's sisters. They will be gone for a year as one of ex-Mill's sisters has cancer and doesn't have long left, and all of this drama with Bill has left them feeling emotionally drained. I think the time away from the US will do them some good, especially ex-Mill. We agreed on weekly Zoom calls, exchanged hugs, then I returned home with both of my sons after picking Brandon up. All in all, despite ex-Mill's temporary insanity, I'm happy with how the meeting went. Finally I can breath. Peace at effing blast. Update 3, ex-husband is angry that I am hot and moved on from him. Hey, Reddit fam. I was truly hoping that I didn't need to make any more updates about my life. I was going in a great direction last time I updated. In truth, life is amazing right now. So since my last post, I have dropped enough weight and I am in the best shape of my life. I go to the gym 4 times a week, all the while balancing my job and raising my kids, maintaining my home, along with pole dancing classes. I'm on my way to becoming a dancer, but for now I'm sticking with bartending while doing private dances at the club. I'm making great money. I have even started seeing one of the bouncers at my job. We'll call him Kyle. He's a sweet, caring man who isn't afraid to speak his mind. He is former military. He's really good looking too. Think Jax Teller from Sons of Anarchy. They could be twins. Yes, he knows about my past. Kyle is one of those social media junkies that likes posting just about everything on his Facebook. One night out at dinner, he took a photo of us together and posted it with the caption, "Future wife." As sweet and adorable as that is, I did ask him take it down as I'm not totally comfortable being on social media just yet, but by then the damage was already done. One of the more cattier girls, Samantha, at the club is mutual friends with my ex, Bill. She knows he is my ex-husband and is aware of the divorce and all of the drama. She is that type of girl that likes to stir up a bunch of shit then sit back and watch the fallout with a gleeful smile on her face. If she wasn't friends with my boss's wife, he would have fired her a long time ago. She routinely shows up late, gossips about everyone she works with, has drank herself into a stupor more than once and beaten up a client when he didn't pay her more than she thought she deserved. And that was all after I started working there a few months ago. She is incredibly toxic and most of us just avoid her. Long story short, she saved the picture and showed Bill and he went postal. Samantha came into work a couple of days ago and informed me that Bill somehow found out about Kyle and he is really upset and has made threats to come to my job. As mad as I was, I told her I didn't care. She horribly feigned sympathy and wished me luck. I informed my boss and Kyle of what Samantha had said. They assured me they would keep a lookout and not to worry. Last night during my shift, I am behind the bar serving drinks like usual. Ever since Samantha told me Bill was making threats to come to my job, I had been nervously keeping one eye on the door at all times. Sure enough, he shows up with 2 of his equally douchey friends. It was almost comical how alike they looked. Slicked back hair, polos tucked into dress pants, blazers and effing sunglasses at night. I wanted to bury my head into the floor in shame for having seen anything in this man or considered him marriage material. I try to ignore him and go back to serving drinks. He notices me and makes a beeline for the bar with thing 1 and 2 following right behind him. This is when he is intercepted by my boss, Kyle, and one other bouncer, Greg. I couldn't hear the conversation between them over the music playing, but I could tell from their body language that things were getting heated. It began to draw a crowd pretty fast, and before I knew what happened, Kyle grabbed Bill up by his jacket and proceeded to usher Bill out the door, kicking and screaming while Greg and my boss escorted thing 1 and 2 out after him. It was pretty anticlimactic, but I'm glad no one was hurt, mostly. After work was finished, I asked Kyle what was said. He told me Bill was pissed that I couldn't bother to improve myself during our marriage and I had moved on and he wanted me back. When Kyle established that he was the man in my life, Bill called me a whore and a bitch and some other colorful words. That was when Kyle grabbed him up and violently threw him out of club onto his ass in the parking lot and said if he harassed me again, he would fuck him up. My effing Garo. Thing 1 and 2 came out right after and helped Bill to his feet. They got in the car with their pride wounded and peeled out of the parking lot. I'm thankful the situation didn't escalate, and so far, Bill hasn't tried showing up to my apartment. I'm hoping he takes Kyle's warning seriously. I'm happily moving on with my life. Update 4, my entitled ex-family shows up at my job. Hey, Reddit fam. With the title of this one, you know it's a clusterfuck. This happened Friday night and I've been struggling to put into words just how insane it was. My ex-in-laws and my ex showed up at my effing job during the biggest event of the year. Every year at my job, there is a Christmas-themed party. The dancers dress up as sexy elves, my boss dresses up as Santa, the bartenders dress up as reindeer and the bouncers dress up as snowmen. The place is beautifully decorated as a winter wonderland with a huge throne for my boss to sit on and custom poles for the dancers to dance around him. It's a huge thing at my job and it is always one of the highest grossing nights of the years. It's advertised all over town that people can come, get their pictures taken with us, sit on Santa's lap and enjoy a fun evening with custom Christmas music made by a DJ. We even have Christmas-themed drinks, guys. And they are so good. I was so excited for it because I started working there this year, so it was my first time being part of this event. I was dancing that evening, so I was dressed up as a sexy elf. I was feeling great. It was pretty late into the evening, around midnight when this incident took place. I was dancing on stage when out of nowhere, I heard the shrieking sound of my ex-Mill crying. I turned around and there they were. Ex-Mill, ex-Phil and effing Bill. Ex-Mill was slapping at Bill's arm and pointing at me. I couldn't make out what she was saying over the music. All I could hear was the shrill sound of her voice. I started looking around for Kyle, my boyfriend. I couldn't see him, but I did see other bouncers. So I waved at them, trying to get their attention. We have a special wave that when a bouncer sees it, they know to come running. Bill comes to the stage and starts shouting at me while the men around him were waving cash at me. He tells me to come down and to come with him, that I was bringing shame to his family. I ignored him. I saw a couple bouncers heading for us, so I kept dancing, believing I was saved. That was protocol. Call the bouncer and keep working to avoid making a scene. It was then I felt someone grab my ankle and pull. In my panic, I fall and let out a scream. I look up and it's Bill. He had pulled himself onto the stage and grabbed me. I start kicking at him with my other foot until the bouncers finally got there and pulled him away from me. I feel someone else grab me and I screamed again, but when I looked up I saw it was Kyle. Bill and my ex-in-laws were taken into the office, while I was taken backstage to ride out the panic attack. Kyle held me until I calmed down. The police were called and I got to watch as Bill was forced into the back of a police cruiser in handcuffs. He's being charged with public disturbance, assault and trespassing. My boss was talking to my ex-in-laws, telling them not to come back and warned them the police would be called if they did. Despite how pissed he was, my boss was pretty calm and polite. I then heard ex-Mill shouting about how she was going to take me to court to take my children away from me because a godless whore like me wasn't fit to be a mother. I couldn't take hearing that and I rushed at her. Kyle had to grab me and stop me, but I was screaming at her that she was a psychopath and she would never get her hands on my kids again, that she had raised a lying, cheating, emotionally abusive scumbag. She raised a hand to slap me, but the bouncers and police got between us. She and ex-Phil got into their car and drove off after being threatened with arrest. After calm had been restored, we all went back inside and resumed the party. I made good money that night. Even Samantha, my job's entitled gossip, couldn't deny what Bill and my ex-in-laws did was crazy. Over the weekend, I got a call from someone claiming to be Bill's ex-girlfriend, the one he cheated on me with. I asked her how she got my number and she said she had her ways. She said she decided to call me after Bill called her begging to get bailed out. She told me that during their relationship, ex-Mill treated her like crap and compared me and her a lot and always acted like she wasn't good enough. She was relieved when they went to Greece, believing her and Bill's relationship could be salvaged at that point, but she was wrong. Bill would also talk about me a lot and she was always crying about being compared to his ex. When I got the job at the club, his behavior became more erratic. She told me that she confronted him after he was thrown out of the club because word travels fast and she heard about the whole thing. He got pissed and slapped her, then threw her out of his house. She got him arrested and he was fired from his job as a result. I thanked her for the information and promptly told her never to call me again. She asked me why and I told her that she had no issue cheating with Bill and hurting his wife and kids and that she was only calling me to get back at him for what he's done to her. I hung up and blocked her. I plan to go file for a restraining order today, but now I am armed with more information that will make the process so much easier and go so much faster. Win for me. Merry Christmas, everyone. Update 5, ex-Mill got arrested. Hey, Reddit fam. I wanted to come on here and give a little update into everyone going on. For the people new to my story, I am a magnet for entitled, shitty and psychotic people. I don't know what it is about me that draws them in, but they flock to me like moths to a flame. My mother is Beelzebub for those who know me. In my last post, you all read how my ex-in-laws and ex-husband, Bill, showed up to my job during the biggest event of the year. I am an exotic dancer and bartender at my current job. My ex is bitter that I am now in the best shape of my life and I look damn good compared to when he and I were together. I am dating an amazing guy named Kyle and my kids are doing great. Onto the crazy. So after my ex-in-laws were banned from my job, I sought the counsel of an attorney. I didn't want to wait it out anymore in hopes that they would just go away like I have in the past. I'm going for the jugular with this, so to speak. I filed for an emergency restraining order, citing my kids and I aren't safe around ex-Mill and ex-husband. Ex-Phil is just a shell that lets ex-Mill get away with shit and doesn't put her in her place. My row was granted temporarily within 24 hours, thanks to all of the evidence I was able to provide. My ex-in-laws and Bill both were served that very same day. We had a hearing on the 23rd, where I was able to plead my case and the judge got to see all of the evidence I had proving why Bill and my ex-Mill are dangerous for me and my kids. Ex-Mill tried to pull a classic tactic of crying and wailing whenever I talked, so the judge would have to stop the proceedings to tell her to shut the fuck up. Eventually I got through what I wanted to say and showed what I wanted. Then ex-Mill and Bill were given the chance to say their piece. Ex-Mill shushed Bill and completely stuck her foot into her mouth by blabbering on about religion and how God is judging me for not coming home to my husband's rule. The man is the Lord while the woman is the subservient slave to his will, and I will burn in hell for not honoring our marriage. The judge reminded her that Bill and I are legally divorced, and ex-Mill shouted at him that no power on earth has the right to sever a marriage that is morally and spiritually binding forever. I was chosen to be Bill's wife by God and I will honor it or there will be consequences. The judge asked her what she meant and ex-Mill tried to play coy and said we'll see. The judge then asked Bill to say his piece. Bill looked uncomfortable. He tried to stand up but ex-Mill grabbed his arm and told him to sit down. The judge threatened to hold her in contempt and she let go, grumbling at him. Bill then he stood up and moved away from ex-Mill. He started ranting about how crazy she is and that he didn't want to be there. He thought he could manipulate me into sleeping with him, but he got tossed out on his ass when he tried and he gave up then and there. Ex-Mill is the one that is doing all of this and he wants no part of it anymore. His life is ruined because everything he has done has been in an attempt to appease her and it has blown up in his face. He then begged the judge to uphold the row because X-Mill has told him that she plans to hurt me if I didn't comply with her demands. He said she was dangerous and unhinged and suggested she needed some kind of psychological help. X-Mill was effing speechless, but one couldn't deny the look of absolute guilt plastered on her face. Turns out she does need psychological help. X-Phil stood up and asked to say a few words. The judge agreed because he looked to be entertained by the three-ring circus playing out in front of him. X-Phil went up to stand beside Bill and confessed to the judge that X-Mill is suffering from the effects of dementia and it has been a closely guarded secret between them for the past 2 years. X-Mill was receiving treatment but stopped when Bill and I moved away from the old state. Since then she has gotten worse and he fears what she will do if left allowed to roam free. They have always been religious, but when X-Mill stopped treatment, she began experiencing psychotic episodes and delusions of grandeur. He also confessed that if I had agreed to let them take my youngest to Greece, X-Mill had no intention of bringing him back. My jaw hit the floor. X-Phil looked at me and pleaded for forgiveness for not putting a stop to the insanity sooner. Bill also apologized for the hell he had put me through, stating he had been an idiot and hoped I could forgive him. Everything seemed to fall into place and things made sense. I never mentioned it, but I did notice whenever I saw X-Mill, she would be forgetful, stare off into space. She seemed confused at times and sometimes she didn't know who people were. I thought it was an act to avoid dealing with people. It was then I heard X-Mill shrieking. She got up and ran at X-Phil and began beating on him until the bailiff pulled her off of him. She was put into cuffs and the judge ordered her to undergo 90 days in a psychiatric treatment facility. She screamed, wailed and kicked as she was carted out of the room. The row was granted for a year. I was completely numb and had no reaction when the verdict was given. I was confused and gobsmacked out of my effing mind at what all I had just heard. I almost don't believe it even happened and wondered if that edible I ate beforehand to calm my nerves was effing with my head. I spoke to X-Phil after court. He is taking Bill back home to the old state to help him get back on his feet. He promised me he and Bill will never bother me again, and once X-Mill is released, he will ensure she doesn't either. I went home and hugged my kids and we went out to look at Christmas lights that night.